All right, so you're ready to take a deep dive into custom Christmas lights.
Sounds like it. And it looks like we have a great source to work with today.
Definitely. We've got a viewer question about polarity and how many LEDs you can actually put on a single strand.
So the question is about the limits of building custom light strands.
Yeah, and we're digging into a video from the Lawn Care Nut on YouTube.
Yeah,
He's awesome.
yeah.
He's out there actually building the
Oh,
strands.
yeah, I've seen his stuff. He does some pretty cool projects.
Yeah, and like he's not just talking about it, he even gets out a kilowatt meter to measure the actual amperage draw.
That's the kind of hands-on stuff we love. So let's talk polarity. That can sound kind of intimidating.
Right, like super technical.
But it's actually a pretty basic electrical concept. It just means that electricity needs to flow in a specific direction through your wiring.
Okay, so like think of it as a one-way street for those little electrons.
Exactly. Just like a battery has a positive and a negative terminal, your wiring has a hot side and a neutral side.
And with incandescent bulbs, polarity is a big deal, right?
Huge. With those old school bulbs, if you mess up the polarity, you can shorten the lifespan of the bulb.
Okay, so it matters for incandescents, got it. But what about for LEDs? I mean, that's what most people are using these days, right?
Yeah, and this is where things get interesting. The lawn care nut actually reached out to his LED supplier and even double-checked with ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, wow. Going all out for research.
Right. And both sources confirm that polarity isn't as critical with modern LEDs.
That's good to know. I was always a little worried about messing that up. So why is it different for LEDs?
It all comes down to those tiny little components inside LEDs called diodes. They're basically like one-way gates for electricity.
So even if you accidentally switch the wires around, the diode's like, nope, not going to happen.
Exactly. The diode prevents the electricity from flowing in the wrong direction, protecting the LED.
LEDs are way more forgiving than those old incandescents.
Definitely, they've come a long way. Now, speaking of wiring things correctly, we need to talk about how many lights you can actually string together.
This is the part I always struggle with. Like, is there some magic number?
Well, the Lawn Care Nuts video has some great visuals, including a map he drew out of his setup. He shows that for 18-gauge wire, the maximum run length you should aim for is 250 feet.
Okay, 250 feet. Got it. But I got to make sure I'm counting those extension cords and jump cords too, right?
Absolutely. Everything adds up. And this all ties back to a concept called voltage loss.
Voltage loss. Okay, all ears.
Imagine a garden hose, right? The longer the hose, the weaker the water pressure at the end. Same idea with electricity.
Okay, so the further the electricity has to travel through the wire, the more power it loses along the way.
Exactly, which is why we have to be mindful of those maximum length.
Makes sense. And then there's that 2.5 amp limit he mentions for 18-gauge wire. Why is that so important?
Safety, that's the key. Too much current flowing through a wire can make it overheat, and that's a fire hazard.
So like if you try to cram too many lights on a single circuit?
Exactly, and that's where that kilowatt meter comes in handy. The lawn care nut hooked up his 235-foot LED strand and found it was pulling a safe 1.1 amps.
So he's got a good safety margin there, and it's cool that he actually measured it, not just going off some theoretical number.
Yeah. Real-world testing is always the best. But keep in mind, that was with LEDs. You mentioned you're using LEDs, right?
Right, LEDs all the way. But I'm guessing that the type of LEDs and how close together they are might affect that amperage too.
You got it. Tighter spacing means more bulbs per foot, and that can bump up the overall amperage draw.
So I might need to adjust that maximum length depending on what kind of LEDs I'm using.
Exactly. And you know what? The video actually has a chart for different bulb spacing, 6-inch, 15-inch, so you can figure out the right calculations for your setup.
Oh, wow. He's thought of everything. That's so helpful. I love that he's all about the details.
Me too. And this actually brings us back to that age-old debate. LEDs versus incandescent bulbs. We've been talking a lot about efficiency, but I know some people still prefer that classic warm glow of incandescence.
Right, LEDs are the clear winner when it comes to saving energy. But man, those incandescents have that certain something.
It's true. It's like that cozy feeling of a real fireplace versus an electric one. Both give you warmth, but the experience is just different.
Totally. He actually put them head-to-head in his video, incandescents versus LEDs, and measured the amperage.
Wait, really? He did a side-by-side comparison.
He did, and the results are pretty wild. 25 incandescent bulbs drew 1.4 amps, but over 200 LEDs, get this, only drew 1.2 amps.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Seriously, over 200 LEDs using less power than 25 old-school bulbs. It makes you realize just how much energy you can save.
And how much money you can save on your electricity bill during the holidays.
Right, so maybe it's time to ditch those incandescents and embrace the LED revolution.
Maybe. But I get it. That warm glow is hard to resist for some people. There's a certain nostalgia factor there.
Yeah, it's like that feeling of putting up the same ornaments you had as a kid. Tradition is powerful.
Totally. And it reminds us that there isn't always a single right answer. Sometimes it comes down to personal preference and what matters most to you.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into custom Christmas lights, what are the key things you want listeners to remember?
Well, first off, polarity is less of a concern with modern LEDs, but it's still super important for incandescent bulbs.
Right. Don't forget about those old school bulbs.
And always, always prioritize safety. Stick to those maximum length and amperage guidelines for your wiring. No one wants a fire hazard during the holidays.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling a little lost with all the technical stuff, the Lawn Care Nuts video is a fantastic resource.
Definitely. He's got those close-up shots of the plugs, the kilowatt meter in action, and that super helpful chart for different bulb spacing.
And here's a final thought for you to ponder as you plan your decorations this year. If incandescents use so much more energy, why do some people still find them more beautiful?
That's a good one. What are you willing to trade off aesthetics for efficiency, tradition for modern tech? It's worth considering. Maybe there's a way to blend the best of both worlds.
I think you're right. There's always room for creativity. And maybe even a little bit of nostalgia.
Exactly. Now, speaking of nostalgia, I can't help but think about our podcast, Let's Talk Christmas Lights.
It's the perfect place for anyone who's as obsessed with Christmas lights as we are.
We cover everything from the latest trends to practical tips and tricks for creating amazing displays.
And we even dive into those epic professional-level installations.
So if you're looking for inspiration, expert advice, or just a fun community of fellow light enthusiasts, definitely check out Let's Talk Christmas Lights.
And if you're a Christmas light installer looking to level up your game this season, maybe take some of the stress out of hiring, you might want to check out ChristmasLightsAcademy.com.
They've got training programs on everything from installation techniques and safety protocols to even business management.
It's like a one-stop shop for empowering your team and making sure your holiday season runs smoothly and successfully.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, remember, whether you're a DIY enthusiast or a seasoned pro, the most important things are to stay safe, have fun, and spread that holiday cheer.
Absolutely. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of custom Christmas lights.
And we can't wait to join you on your next knowledge adventure. It's super detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really helps you figure out what your setup needs.
Yeah, it's great.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this whole conversation about LEDs and how many you can put on a strand, it makes me think about that whole LEDs versus incandescent bulbs debate.
Yeah.
It's LEDs are definitely winning in the efficiency department.
Oh, yeah.
But there's something about that warm, traditional glow of incandescence, that people just love.
You do. It's like a totally different vibe.
Yeah, for sure. It's a real tug of war between, wanting to be energy efficient and that nostalgia factor.
Totally.
You know what's funny? He actually put them head to head in the video.
No.
Incandescence versus LEDs.
Oh, he did a side-by-side amperage test.
He did.
I love it.
And the results are pretty crazy.
Okay, alrighty.
So 25 incandescent bulbs, those drew 1.4 amps.
Okay.
Over 200 LEDs.
Yeah.
Drew only 1.2 amps.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane.
That's a crazy difference. Over 200 LEDs using less power than 25 incandescent bulbs.
It's wild, right?
That's awesome. I mean, It really shows you how much energy you can save by making the switch.
Yeah. Just imagine how much lower your electric bill would be during the holidays if you went all LED.
Seriously. So maybe it's time to ditch those old incandescents and go full LED, right?
Maybe. But I get it. That warm glow, it's hard to let go of. For some people, it just wouldn't feel like Christmas without them.
Yeah, it's true. It's like that feeling of putting up the same ornaments you had as a kid.
Exactly. Tradition is powerful.
Tradition is powerful.
It really is. And it's a good reminder that there isn't always one right answer, Sometimes it comes down to personal preference.
So
what matters most to you?
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into custom Christmas lights, what are the key things you want listeners to walk away with?
Well, first off, polarity. It's less of an issue with modern LEDs, but it's still super important for incandescent bulbs.
Got it.
And I can't stress this enough. Safety always comes first. You've got to make sure you're following those maximum length and amperage guidelines for your wiring.
Yes. No one wants a fire hazard, especially during the holidays.
Exactly.
And if anyone's feeling a little overwhelmed with all the technical stuff, the Lawn Care Nuts video is a fantastic resource.
Oh, yeah, definitely check it out. It's super helpful. He's got those close-up shots of the plugs, the kilowatt meter in action, and that chart we were talking about for different bulb spacing.
It's great. Okay, so here's a final thought I want to leave you with.
Okay, I like it.
We've talked a lot about energy efficiency today.
Yeah.
So if incandescent bulbs use so much more energy, why do some people still think they're more beautiful? What are you willing to give up? Like aesthetics for efficiency or tradition for modern tech?
That's a really great question. It really makes you think about what's important to you. You know, as you plan your holiday decorations this year,
Absolutely.
think about what you value most. Maybe you'll find a way to blend the best of both worlds.
Totally. Like, maybe a little bit of LED efficiency with a touch of that classic incandescent charm.
I love it.
A little bit of both.
Why not? The holidays are all about creating something beautiful and meaningful.
Exactly. And maybe even a little bit magical.
Definitely. So, speaking of creating something magical and nostalgic,
Yes.
it reminds me of our podcast, Let's Talk Christmas Lights.
Yeah, it's perfect for anyone who loves Christmas lights.
If you've got that Christmas light bug, this is the podcast for you.
We talk about everything from the latest design trends to practical tips for making your display look amazing.
We even get into some of those crazy professional level installations, the ones that blow your mind.
Oh yeah, those are awesome. So if you're looking for ideas or advice or just want to connect with other people who love Christmas lights as much as you do,
It's the place to be.
check out Let's Talk Christmas Lights.
Yeah.
And hey, if you're a Christmas light installer and you're thinking about maybe leveling up your game this year,
Yeah, take things to the next level.
you might want to check out ChristmasLightsAcademy.com.
ChristmasLightsAcademy.com is a great resource. They have these training programs on everything.
Everything.
From installation techniques to safety stuff and even business management.
That's amazing. It's like if you want to empower your team
Mhm.
and make sure things go smoothly this season.
This is it. It's the perfect resource.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, remember,
Yeah.
whether you're a DIYer or a pro,
Mm-hmm.
the most important things are to stay safe, have fun,
Of course, safety first.
and spread that holiday cheer.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of custom Christmas lights.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
And we can't wait to see you on the next one.
Happy lighting.